and welcome to this special edition of Focus On. I'm Kenneth Igbomo. On this episode, our spotlight is on Purple Real Estate Income Plc, a tech-driven real estate company that commenced operations in 2014 and is looking to build a portfolio of investment-grade assets in densely populated areas. With an initial public offer of 2 billion ordinary shares at 5 naira per share that is currently active, we'll find out how they're identifying the opportunity in Nigeria's real estate market.
The Nigerian real estate market is actually a massive market. I mean, if you look at it, 5% or so is the contribution of real estate to the GDP as at last count. What you have now is if you add construction to that, then you're north of 11%. That shows you the size and scale of what we're talking about. We're talking about north of 9 trillion naira when you combine those two elements together. If you look at that vis-a-vis the actual penetration of what that has provided for the market, then you know that we're still scratching the surface. There's still a lot more, given the infrastructural deficit, especially in real estate and provision of real estate, that is required for a developing and growing market of this nature, especially in a market where it's the largest economy in Africa.
I think the real estate market is, if you want to talk about potential, you have to look at it relative to our economy, right? If you look at the top growth sectors for the real sector of the economy, not the oil sector, the non-oil sector, which is bigger than the oil sector, real estate in terms of growth is number 4. So growth over the last quarter has been led by the ICT guys, the financial services guys, and the real estate, in that direction. If you want to impact on the economy, right, and turn things around, creating jobs, opportunity, and creating wealth for people, the path to go through is real estate.
Since inception in 2014, Purple's primary activities cover the purchase, lease, development, and management of properties to generate scale. So how did all this come together, and what is their value proposition for the market?
Purple, first of all, the founders of Purple I have known for a while. And one of the things that I would say immediately about them is their tenacity. And so when Purple started, it was clear that it was going to be going down a trajectory that was different from most other property development companies. And although it initially played in the residential space, which is considered the safe space to play, it also quickly recognized that to create value, it needed to start to look at subsets of the market that most people would not consider. So when you think about their flagship project, which we all know, the development called Purple Maryland, you can start to get a sense of the way that they're thinking. They're thinking there is a subset that's globally accepted, shopping centers, but we're going to localize conceptually what a shopping center should look like in Nigeria. And that's what you see in, for example, Purple Maryland.
The company started in about 2013. We had actually just come out of our ownership of our management role from Alternative Capital Partners, which is a company I founded as well, dating back to 3.5 years before that. It was a fund manager company, of which obviously we have now done the acquisition of Alternative Capital Partners. So we have the asset management license approved by SEC to operate as a REICO going into the future. And that's all forming part of the existing offer we have in the market. The company, over 10 years ago, about a decade, obviously then started operation with an emphasis on trying to deliver to the market residential and commercial assets. We started off with some of the smaller residential developments of which some people know us for. And then we obviously did this nice, beautiful building, Purple Maryland, formerly Maryland Mall on Ikorodu Road, which we're sitting comfortably in, which is 97% occupied and trading. We've been able to then grow our base and confidence of the market with this flagship asset. We've gone through a series of capital raise, backings from the market, from the likes of Stanbic IBTC Bank, AXA Mansard, Bank of Industry, and our South African partners, Vantage Capital. And we've gone through processes of ensuring our stakeholders are well taken care of, and also the commitment that we give to them in ensuring we deliver value to them. So that has bettered what you have today as Purple.
Ah, interesting. Myself and Lady were we complement each other, and we, as investment bankers, we just thought to ourselves, there's a lot of, as an investment banker, you see how value is created, how wealth is created. So you help people raise money, you help people turn around businesses. So you see the value chain, as it were. So for you to turn 1 million naira to 10 million naira, there's a process to it. An investment banker or investment manager sees that the entirety of it. And we said to ourselves, you know what? We've spent more than a decade creating value for other people. Why not create value for ourselves and for our stakeholders, right? And that was how we now started, looking at what we're going to do. And we saw that the opportunity to play is in that real estate and IT space, and we went into it.
Aside that as well is just the thinking that development should not be specifically focused on a particular sector, and that mixed uses are more enduring long-term. And so you can also see that in every project that they are involved in now and going forward, that there's a lot of thought process behind ensuring that we create this 24-hour environment. So it's a mix of commercial, retail, entertainment, offices, residences. The other part, of course, is that as for investors, people want to start to see that residences can also be thought of in a completely different way. And so when you talk about, serviced apartments and shortlets, they are really going forward full stream and trying to pioneer in that area where they're aggregating a number of small, what they call nanos. So those are small apartments, and then it's being fully serviced. And that's a delight for any investor.
Is the fact that we're cementing our leadership position in that formal real estate marketplace. Not very many domestic players operate within the formalized real estate market space under regulation, with emphasis on it being regulated. Because as you well know that the real estate space is available to almost everybody to participate so long as you have the capital. But then you also have to, when you want to formalize this space, you also have to come with the essence of corporate governance. You have to come with the essence of being able to deliver what you say you will deliver, when you will deliver it, and be able to give to the market products and lines of business that they typically may not necessarily be able to participate in. And that's what we're offering to the market. The first real estate investment company registered by the Securities and Exchange Commission, listed on the NGX. Our mission is always to be the largest real estate investment company on the NGX in the coming year.
At the time we built Maryland Mall, that was at that time the only indigenous built commercial facility in Nigeria that were done by people under 40 years old. Everybody, from the architect to the developers, everybody in that project were under 40 years old. So it shows that the next generation of people that want to move from mid-sized businesses to big businesses and listed companies are taking the bull by the horn and getting themselves involved in creating value. And for you to do that kind of complex project, project from a project management development standpoint, with various people across, various, touch points and deliver that value, is quite significant, right? And what they were able to do demonstrates that we've developed a platform, a company has the capacity to deliver value to shareholders.
Well, clearly one of the first things is their audacity. That's the first thing. And then also their commitment to doing things right, in the long term. Yeah, even when it's not convenient. I think that that's something that investors really need to be aware of. I mean, and also being in an environment where a lot of things that you want to do have not been done before, and being willing to set the pace and to be in some way the guinea pig to create the doorway for other people to come through eventually. So that's a lot of the stuff that I see. Now, so some people are saying, no, we don't, pioneering is difficult in our environment. But pioneers end up being champions. And this is, how I see the company.
For a real estate company coming to the market with an IPO, getting the right team to work with is crucial, from the lead issuing house to the joint stockbrokers and the registrars.
So for us, relationships are very important. And when we were putting together the team that will lead us to the IPO, we're looking at the people that have capacity, people that have done it before, the people that have been with us on our journey since we started the company. So most of the people on the offer have done one thing or another with us on the corporate side of the business, either debts or private placement memorandum from the inception. So they knew, or they understand the story behind Purple and the context, and they understand where we're going to. That way, they're able to give the investing public actual representation of the company's historicals and a fair view on the company's trajectory going forward in the future. Those are the key elements that made us decide who to work with, because we looked at partnerships. Yeah.
Take an example. Cardinal Stone is registrar on this deal. Cardinal Stone registrars. You also have EAC, who led on some of our private placement transactions that were taking place before now, acting as joint issue house on this transaction, Imagine Africa. You have Kairos that has also worked with us on some of our private placement transactions, on our other capital market transactions, also acting as lead issue house on this offer. We have Stanbic IBTC, stockbrokers, acting as stockbrokers to the issue.
Well, I'd say that relationship dates back to a couple of years ago. Laide, the CEO of Purple, and I, we almost met at the same institution. He was virtually living what was called UBA Global Markets back in the day, about 2007, 2006, and I was joining at that time. So we almost were colleagues, but we missed each other by just maybe a month or two. But I've known him from the market when he was practicing investment banking, from Stanbic to all the places he worked. And we kept in touch until a few years ago when they came together and started Purple. And of course, naturally, being friends, it was easier for us to interact and look at advisory work. So this is not the first work we're doing for them as Kairos. We've helped in raising funds for the property in Lekki. The fund that was used to acquire the property in Lekki, we helped in that. We worked on the Sukuk that they issued as well. And now we're working on the equity raise. And there are many more advisory transactions that we're working on. So as a company, we're proud to be associated with what they've done, phenomenal work they've done in the past few years. And we hope that tomorrow will be better than yesterday. So for investors, you need to look at Purple with the sense that they already have quality assets, operational assets, and quality cash flows that is available today. Now, it's not a story. Purple is not a story just for tomorrow. It's a story of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. They've already started. They're operational. They own a unique asset in the Maryland Mall. The Lekki Mall is under construction. They have a few other assets under construction. And what they're doing with space, you have to understand that Purple is not your typical real estate company. They're taking small spaces and making those spaces just spew cash flows. So for instance, what is happening in Lekki is going to be misuse, a mixed-use mall. The ground floor and the second floor will be a mall, and the top floor will be residential in minis and condos that you don't find in and around that Lekki environment. If you want to rent a house in Lekki today, you have to look for a duplex because that's what you most likely find. But Purple is changing the game.
The Purple real estate IPO is significant to the capital market. First of all, because of course, there has been a dearth of IPOs. Obviously, we are interested at Emerging Africa as a leading investment banking firm. We're very interested in bringing quality issuances to the market. The market needs credible issuances that will stimulate interest. You are aware, for example, that investors have been hit in a way by the double whammy of rising inflation as well as foreign exchange currency devaluation, essentially loss in value of the currency. And what that means at the end of the day is that investors are looking for asset classes that have a higher chance of providing real returns by surpassing or compensating for the effect of some of these challenges. And we think an investment in real estate has ample opportunity to do that. I also think there's pent-up interest and demand for real estate assets. And you have seen this being taken advantage of by a lot of unregistered and unregulated developers, and where you have had stories of people who are excited and they are putting money in these projects, but a lot of them have not. There's been no oversight, regulatory oversight over these bilateral transactions. There are sometimes shifts in dates and all that. But bringing a real estate company to the market, a public company, and an issuance that is regulated by the SEC, an opportunity to buy ordinary shares in that company, we think it's great for the market. And there is no better time than now to bring such an issuance to the market.
Purple's initial public offer opened on the 21st of November and will run for 25 working days to close on the 23rd of December. Once completed, the shares will then be listed on the Nigerian exchange.
Our IPO, the Purple IPO, we are in the market to raise 10 billion naira with 2 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each at 5 naira per share. Potentially with an oversubscription portion that will take us to 11.5 billion in raise. And that will obviously put us post-money at about 31.5 billion naira. And with our entire capital raise and the plans that we have outlined, we should potentially be able to get to 45 billion to 50 billion in terms of valuation within a very short period.
So in terms of price discovery, you see, when it comes to valuation, I tell people valuation is part mathematics, part art, right? The mathematics aspect of it is the logical conversation that says, these are the assets in the company, these are the cash flows, this is the approach to discount it, this is the value. But then the art portion of it, looks at the context within which that company exists and the opportunities that the company has for expansion, right? So you will see that if you look at the share price of any listed company, it mirrors, number one, the dividend yield on the stock. It also mirrors the opportunities that investors believe that company portends into the future. And that is principally driven by the management and the governance and the foresight of that company. If you look at our growth trajectory over the past 10 years and see the projects that we've been lining up and the fact that we've engaged external stakeholders around us from the funding side, you will see that we have a very high growth trajectory. So if you look at that growth trajectory, you also have to factor that into the price. So based on the valuations that we've come up, the market has said that the actual price of the company is actually higher than the offer price. But then for bringing in investors, you have to give them a discount, right? And bring them on board. So we believe that the price point is representative of the current opportunities, but not entirely representative of the future opportunities.
I think that the first thing that they have done is that they have demonstrated what is possible. And they have also built, through that, a credible track record, which they're able to open up to anyone who is interested in investing in their company. And that's very important. It's not just about speaking, it's about showing. And they've done that over the past nearly 8 years now, which also is what gives them confidence to come out into the market, but also would give every investor the confidence that, okay, this is not people who just, are coming in with words, but they're coming in with a track record of assets that they've been managing, but also assets in process, and also a track of, what is potentially possible. So, if you look at the prospectus, it's not talking about events of the future. It's talking actually, first of all, about the things that are possible right now. And that should give a lot of comfort to the investors.
For real estate companies operating in the Nigerian market, the Real Estate Investment Trust, or REITs, is the usual platform of engagement. But Purple has chosen a different route by becoming the first approved REICO platform in Nigeria.
So the REICO structure is different from the REIT structure. So there are a couple of REITs in the market, but one of the things you find with the REITs is that REITs are constantly returning below inflation. So the best of REITs you find in the market are probably returning somewhere even around rental income. So 5 to 6% return, no matter how you stretch the cash flows and the financial model. But with a REICO, you're now talking about a company Not a REIT gives you something that is done under a trust deed and managed by a fund manager. But with a REICO, you have a company limited by shares. The liabilities are limited to the shares. And by SEC rule, they must distribute 75% of what they've earned. So the tendency for you to get better return from a REICO is much higher than a REIT. And it allows you to make investments in what I would like to call smaller units. You're buying shares. Now you're owning part of real estate by shares, and not because you need a lot of money to invest in real estate. So it's something that is also unique again, and another game changer from Purple.
The way we want to expand is obviously we don't want to be a mono real estate asset class. We don't want to be a retail REICO. We don't want to be an office REICO like you see everywhere else in the world. We want to be a mixed asset pool, a REICO that has multiple formations of hospitality, residential, retail, and all of those interesting areas of real estate that you typically not find all conjoined together into one platform. And the idea behind that is to provide stability of revenues, right? Our REICO formation and our strategy is obviously to ensure that we continuously maintain 75% of our gross asset value in stabilized and yielding assets, while 25% of our gross asset value will be in development assets. We would amplify that with about 25% of debt to ensure that we have an amplified and blended yield return. An amplified and blended yield return at about north of 18% per annum on average over the next 10 years. And that's just return on equity. When you now talk about return on assets and how that applies to the value of the share price, we will then see that as assets continue to perform and grow in stability, you then see those sort of valuations coming out in terms of the revaluation surplus, the excess provisions from the profit line, which is brought into retained earnings to reflect in the net asset value, which you can then compare to about 0.9 to 1.2 times the net asset value to determine what the share price should be at any one point in time. These are global standards.
My expectation is that we will be, from the current fillers that we're getting, we're probably going to be oversubscribed. And then we're looking at how to accommodate that as well within the SEC rules. People are excited because they are seeing this year has been very good for the capital market because they're not seeing the usual companies come to market. We had an ICT related company come to market. We have a real estate related company come, and these are real sector businesses. So people are having an opportunity to tap into the real sector. So we're very excited about the offer. The feedback again from the market is very excited at it, and they like the company, they like the story, they like what it portends. And real estate is something you can go and touch and feel. So they can go to the mall, touch and feel it. Some people are coming to the sites and looking at it. So it's very exciting for us, and we're very enthusiastic about it.
We're very optimistic. There are a number of institutions that are looking for this type of opportunity, because this type of opportunity also generates cash flows. So insurance companies, pension funds are looking at this. This is not just about putting your money behind a company. It's a company that has a portfolio of assets that is generating cash flows that's tied to contracts. So that comfort of cash flows is an important consideration for many investors. Also, just the simple fact that there's not a lot of exposure to real estate because of just a general lack of. And finally, on the retail level, so this is you and I and the man on the street, it's just that opportunity to buy into something that under normal circumstances doesn't even present itself as being available.
The next phase of growth for us as part of our 10-year strategy is looking beyond Nigeria, what we can do within the West African sub-region, right? And there are lots of opportunities there. We believe that Nigeria should lead the way in terms of, structured wealth, doing real estate business in West Africa. After that, we want to be able to tell the Nigerian story at the global space.
We also expect for us to also see a significant growth trajectory going into the future, especially with the right partners and the pension funds and institutional players supporting and backing a true Nigerian story into the rest of West Africa and Africa. We expect that will encourage our growth trajectory and fast track that growth trajectory. And we're already seeing that all of the opportunities that are coming our way, given this capital raise. Our immediate plan, like stated in the prospectus, is obviously the fact that we want to free up the middle line to ensure that middle line can take a bit more on a longer term basis, to ensure that we can now go on a trajectory that is revolutionary in nature. We already have our credit guarantors and our bankers fully behind us on the debt line to ensure that we're able to then immediately tap the capital formation that we've arranged and ensure that the acquisition drive is immediate. We had mentioned in our prospectus the 5-year trajectory of getting to 80 billion in gross asset value, which we're going to get to within the first quarter. So we're quite interested to see what happens immediately after that and how the next 10 years look.
And this brings us to the end of this special edition of Focus On with our spotlight on Purple Real Estate Income PLC. I'm Kenneth Igbomo. Invest wisely.